Hello, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of Prom Sports World. And if you're anything like me here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we're getting ready for some snow basically all night, which will make my morning commute no fun at all. But on today's episode, we're going to put a nice little bow on the 2022-2023 NFL season. Talk a little bit about the best moments, most surprising team, disappointing, all that good stuff. All that went down in the 2022-2023 NFL season. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point. Helping right there is my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins, CEO of Prime Sports World, Mr. Israel Rivera, should be joining us here momentarily. He's running a little bit behind. But yeah, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And also, if you do happen to miss us live, we do have a plethora of streaming options, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. But yeah, continue checking us out over there. TJ, Izzy, what's up, my guys? How are you all doing? Is it snowing, or how is the weather there in northern Chicago-ish area?
It's snowing.
Yeah, that's coming here. I'm for sure not looking forward to it. So, But let's get into the conversation. Let's talk about the 2023 NFL season. Obviously, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. They won the Super Bowl and MVP, respectively. We already did a whole show on the award show. Please go check that out, as it is part of our platform, as we basically do a show every single day. So keep checking us out. Let's talk about the best moment of the NFL season. TJ, if you were just to recap the season as a whole, what would you say as a whole?
Typical NFL season. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't really say there were any surprises like during the season. All the fun stuff came before the season.
I think there were for sure some serious surprises. I mean, there were some teams that were definitely better than people predicted, especially people even on this platform here at Prime Sports World. I think, the 2023 NFL season was a very fun NFL season. It was kind of dampened a little bit by one of the worst moments ever in the history of professional sports, which we'll get to that here later. But yeah, when we talk about and then the officiating at times was very frustrating this season. It seems very inconsistent from game to game, snap to snap, drive to drive, something the NFL for sure needs to clean up. But I think the best team this season emerged victorious, and that's just my recap of the NFL season. But yeah, there's been some officiating that they're going to have to clean up some stuff. I really think they have to try to they should replay all of those roughing the passer calls. I'm tired of ticky-tack roughing the passer calls. Those should be looked at every single time.
I think the issue that we have with that is it's too open for interpretation.
Yeah, that's exactly why they have somebody in New York or somebody else make a ruling like, hey, yeah, that was probably not a good call. Let's reverse the flag.
We saw that, like, they tried it, and again, they'd rather back their guys than call them out for being the ball.
I'm just saying, people are going to continue to complain about the NFL has a way to fix it. They're just choosing not to. And I mean, if your referees' egos are that fragile, they could get in a different industry.
Well, it's not just the ref's ego. Again, it's the how do I look calling out my I'm not finna call him. I'm gonna stand by my guy. Right, wrong, I'm going to stand by him. I'm not saying that's right, but it's not just the refs. It's the
call. In this day and age, every call should be correct. There shouldn't be this wiggle room in the middle where it's like maybe it was like somebody, because when it's a bang bang play, the heat of the moment, referees throw the flag, but it should be somebody overseeing all of that. But yeah, I mean, the NFL, the season was very entertaining. We had some surprise teams. We'll get to all that here in this show. Let's talk about best moment of the season. What was the best moment for you this season, TJ?
Best moment, I don't really think I have one. I can't narrow it down to just one.
I mean, give me a couple there. I mean, come on.
Justin Fields being the highlight of a terrible Bears season. You got Jalen Hurts shutting everybody up, because for the longest it was Jalen Hurts can't throw, he can't do this, he can't do that. Then they're like, all right, we're going to go get A.J. Brown, and we're going to show you that he can throw.
My best individual moment this season was Justin Jefferson catching that ball on 4th and 19 in that Minnesota Vikings Buffalo Bills game. That ended up, it wasn't the deciding factor, but it was one of the coolest catches I've ever seen. I have no idea how he even caught it. It was an incredible catch. It was one of the best moments of the season, and it won. I think it won best moment of at the award show, right? It won best moment, I think.
The NFL honors, I think so.
Yeah. So that was an incredible catch, an incredible moment. Anybody have
I think
anything
the best moment of the season for me was Chandler Jones running that touchdown back, that debacle between New England and Vegas. I think that had to be the best moment
I can hear him, but he's low.
Yeah, he's low. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
love
no.
that
Can you hear
moment
me
too.
now?
He
I
gets
said the
yeah,
walk
Yeah,
off,
yeah,
the
yeah.
walk off winner.
he
Yeah,
gets to do it to his former team too, a team that traded him away when he was still in his prime. Like,
absolutely,
yeah, like totally sick.
absolutely.
Even though Chandler Jones had pretty disappointing season as a whole. But yeah, that moment for Chandler Jones had to feel real sweet, and it was one of the boneheaded plays you ever see in the history of the league.
Yeah, that was stupid.
It
Because it
was
was a
not
because it was a tie game, bro. It was
yeah,
like, what are you doing?
you're going to overtime regardless. Just kneel, take a knee, end the play, move on with your season. But yeah, I love the Justin Fields moment. I think that was an incredible, just seeing him kind of rise to prominence a little bit, play well, and same thing with Jalen Hurts. TJ, I agree with you on that.
Jalen Hurts. Hey! I just want to just say this. I was calling that this Jalen Hurts season from the get go.
It's
When
true.
when
Mr. Mr.
this ain't
Rosa.
no jab at TJ because TJ's right. TJ's like, well, you got to show me all this talk in the preseason. You got to show me. And he said it about Darren Waller. Do it again. You know that his mantra is that. Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts showed us. So I guess he's got to do it again. But I mean, this was an incredible season for him.
He had a good season. The first,
His
I
first
think
3 years, he's just gotten better and better every single season. So
one of the other great efforts is that George Pickens catch. I don't know if you guys remember that during the season.
oh my gosh, yes.
George Pickens had that crazy catch on the sidelines. It was one of the true gems.
I'll give a moment too. I'll give another good moment. I'll stay with my favorite team, the Packers. My rookie, scoring all those
Yeah.
touchdowns against Dallas. Was it 4 touchdowns against Dallas in that comeback win in the Frozen Tundra, which I could have went to. I could have went to that game, but I decided I was gonna stay home, and I really am kicking myself right now about that. But yeah, gotta give it to my guy there.
We did have I think Chrissy was at that game, so shout out to her. I don't know if she watches the show or not, but she was at that game. But yeah, on the other flip side of this, and for every best moment, there's always those worst moments. And I think the conversation begins and ends when it comes to the worst moments is the Damar Hamlin on the field scare. That was by far the worst moment I've ever seen in an NFL game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was that. Then we thought what happened to Tua in Cincinnati was worse, and then
Yeah,
then that
that's another one.
happened.
And like that was one of those moments where the NFL stopped, like the earth, or like the world kind of stood still, and like time moved very slowly, and like it was just this process of like, what's the team's going to do? Are they continue this game? Or are they going to pick it up later? It was just a slow, drawn out process. It was by far the worst moment, maybe in NFL history.
That and you saw not just that worst moment, but like you saw the worst in people. Like they didn't like that dude was fighting for his life, and all you heard on social media and stuff was, "But what about fantasy? What about this? What about my parlay, dude?" Excuse my language, real quick, but fuck your parlay, fuck your fantasy. A guy's fighting for his life, and you worried about your fantasy league or your parlay? Like seriously, like
Yeah,
that's what's on your mind at that moment? Come on, man. Like be like,
it's pretty jacked up. But
I
you
agree.
also saw out of that terrible moment, you also saw the NFL community really kind of come together and rally around him. Like we saw a lot of teams supporting him. I think you saw like the collective good that the NFL can do when they're all united around one cause.
Absolutely. I got to give a shout out to the EMT crew that rushed on the field and did their thing to resuscitate him back to life while he was on the field, because it could have been without those guys, his recovery it would have been worse situation, would have meant almost death, right? So
If those EMTs hadn't done their job properly,
I think he is dead.
he is dead. Yeah. So I got to give a shout out to those guys.
There's no probably when it comes to that conversation.
Yeah, and not all and that cliche saying not all heroes wear capes, and that's damn right. That's damn right, because there's heroes and a lot of us, and on that day, those guys were the biggest people on the field. Those EMTs that helped him come back to life. If I was gonna choose a moment out of that, in sticking to football, it had to be the Indianapolis Colts giving up that 35-point lead to the Minnesota Vikings. That has to be one of the worst moments of the season for a football team, in my opinion. I mean, Jeff Saturday, what is it, his second or third game? He has a big lead and he just gives it up. I mean, I made a good significant chunk amount of money off of a little $10 bet. It netted me $350 because there was a plus 35. There was a plus like 3,500 or something like that. So yeah, the Minnesota Vikings coming back, but the Indianapolis Colts losing was probably one of the worst moments of this season. So.
I also think another terrible moment was the field conditions during the Super Bowl. We saw a lot of players slip and fall during the Super Bowl. You never want to see.
Now it's come out that the field was overwatered, which how do you let that happen? Like, seriously?
Well, I mean, because they have to rule that stadium out. So if it rains, it could potentially get wetter than people anticipate, and then they roll it back in and water it. So,
That's but it's Arizona. I don't think they have to worry about too much rain. Like I'm not a groundskeeper. I don't actually know. So like in places where it gets a lot of rain, I understand that, and that wasn't turf. That was a grass field. They play on grass in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just, if they picked up some rain, I can't answer that question. But yeah, the poor turf in the at the Super Bowl. You never want to see the game, like the pinnacle of the sport. This game decides all of it, with players slipping all over the field. You just hate to see it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Anybody got any worse moments as well before we move on to surprising players? And
no, I mean, I think we said everything that kind of needs to be said about that.
I think another worst moment is all of the Justin Fields haters. You should enjoy this. Like the guy is getting played with no offensive line, no weapons, and he's still getting bashed by the Chicago media and the Chicago fans.
I don't even think it's not even the Chicago media. It's everybody else. The guy says he hopes the new stadium is a dome, and that gets turned into he doesn't want to play in Chicago. He doesn't like the cold. It's like literally everybody's talking about the new stadium is going to be a dome. Like,
not to mention that new stadium's probably like 5 years out.
Maybe even less than that. Like, I don't like the land's already bought. They just need to do whatever they need to do to get it. And I don't understand how I hate how football, like they call football the ultimate team sport, but the quarterback gets all the blame and the praise. Like people he lost 10 straight games. Did he lose 10 straight games, or did the Bears lose 10 straight games?
The Bears did. Let's move on from there. Let's talk about most surprising players. Most surprising player for you guys this season.
Most surprising, probably Geno Smith for me.
Yeah, for me too. He's definitely the most surprising player for me. The guy goes from being just an afterthought in there in Seattle to winning most improved player. Had the highest completion percentage this past season.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side of that, like Russell Wilson's probably
yeah.
You jumping the gun there, jumping the gun. Outside of Jalen Hurts, yeah, I think Geno Smith does have to be one of the most surprising players. But I'll add another guy into that, and that's Trevor Lawrence, going from the rookie season that he had, which was, where he had weeks without a touchdown pass.
I guess I'm less surprised by Trevor Lawrence. I guess I'm less surprised by Trevor Lawrence than I was with Geno Smith, given the talent that Trevor Lawrence displayed in college. Right. So I always kind of figured that he would take a step forward in year two with a better coach.
Right. No, that's fair. That's fair. I just from the rookie year that he had. I mean, I was kind of starting to look like was he a bust?
Izzy's right. Izzy's right. Like you drafted him first overall. Like first overall picks aren't supposed to go a whole
Without
calendar
throwing a
month
touchdown.
without throwing a touchdown pass. Like that doesn't happen. And hey, Izzy, I'm glad you brought that up because you know what? That whole month of him doing that, I never heard, hey, the Jags should move off of Trevor Lawrence. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing
Nah,
that out
just throwing that out there. Just throwing
there.
that out there.
Like the Jags,
Also, let's do another surprising player, Brock freaking Purdy. Come on, Mr. Irrelevant. Come on, man.
Takes him to the NFC Championship game. I mean, nobody saw that coming.
Nobody saw that coming.
Two running backs that had really good season. Josh Jacobs, running back for the Oakland Raiders.
Oh yeah,
Las Vegas. What is this graphic? Las Vegas Raiders ran for a billion yards. Man, like he really teared it up. 1,400 yards. He was really incredible this season. They tagged him for a reason. Jamal Williams, another running back, he ends up breaking Barry Sanders' record. He was good in Green Bay, but Jamal Williams has really elevated his game since he's gotten to Detroit.
Well, when you get the bulk of the carries, and you don't have to split time in the backfield with somebody, then yeah, you're gonna show out. So I'm glad for him.
I mean, but hey, he has still DeAndre Swift there for a lot of games. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, that safety from San Francisco, Hufanga.
Hufanga.
Yeah, man. I tell you, man, that guy really took a major step in year one.
I'm gonna actually have to give mine to T.J. Edwards, the linebacker out of Philly. I think he really surprised. Turned some heads this year. I mean, that was supposed to be the reason why I always said the reason why Nakobe Dean wasn't really playing for Philly was because how good T.J. Edwards was. He definitely earned himself a good contract this offseason. So
Hufanga, his rookie season, had 32 tackles, right? His season, this past season, 66 tackles with 4 picks, including 1 pick six and a forced fumble. Like that is an improvement for sure, man. Like, yeah,
he doubled up.
So good for him. Excellent play. Another surprising player. Let's talk about Jared Goff a little bit. Yeah, like a kind of a toss away from the Los Angeles Rams. It goes to Detroit this season to makes them relevant as the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's the whole castaway logic with him, right? We break the trade down to him going to Detroit, Stafford going to the Rams, and it's just like, oh, he's going to Detroit to die because they are just.
and now their future is brighter than the Rams is.
Yeah, they went from all right. Well, the Lions are going to be taking one of these quarterbacks in the draft, and it's just like no, they're not anymore. Like
another huge surprise was Evan Ingram. Like another guy who was dropped big time passes in big time moments goes to the Jaguars. 69 catches this past season, 4 touchdowns, 739 yards. So
I can what's his name? Oh, I just had it. Well, obviously before the concussions and stuff, Tua was. I think he was like on his way to getting MVP. I don't know, right? But stuff happens, and unfortunately,
he for sure had an opportunity. He for sure had an opportunity to get MVP this season.
Yeah, it's like unfortunately for him, stuff happened. This is still most surprising player.
Correct.
I just what's his name from it'll come to me. Isaiah Pacheco. There we go. Like,
oh yeah, that's a good one.
Sixth round pick. Nobody thought he'd contribute a whole lot. I like that. Let's switch gears from surprising. Let's talk about the most disappointing players. And I just have to, because I complained about this particular player basically all season long, especially in the world of fantasy. Is he? Russell Wilson basically buried one of my team for real. And he not only did he bury my fantasy team, he buried his real team. The Denver Broncos, like they lose week 1 after the
just poor clock management
with Nathaniel Hackett and the head coaching situation. Russell Wilson you'll have to look over in Seattle.
Let's ride.
Yeah,
Bronco country. Right? Let's ride, baby.
Bronco country. Let's ride.
So I gotta go. Russell Wilson is the most disappointing player for me personally. You guys have any?
I got a couple of them.
Go
It's
ahead.
it's a few. Go ahead, Izzy, go
I
ahead.
got a couple of. I'll go one offense and defense. I thought you were gonna go with this guy on offense, David. It's probably your second guy that you'll go with as most disappointing. Alvin Kamara was
Yeah,
disappointing
man.
this season. He and we can also throw his teammate in there,
Michael
Michael
Thomas.
Michael
Michael
Thomas.
Michael
Thomas.
Yeah,
Thomas.
Michael Thomas. But
He
I know
quote
he was
unquote
hurt, but still.
he quote unquote got injured. So
Yeah. But I'll stick with Alvin Kamara, man. I mean, there was a stretch there where the NFC South was up for grabs, and he was just non-existent for like 4 weeks straight down the stretch. Am I right or am I
oh no, you're
wrong?
100% right.
So Alvin Kamara is definitely. I mean, for him to be the catalyst, and then also coupled with the off the field
Off the field
altercation
stuff.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, it just culminated into a pretty underwhelming season for Alvin Kamara. And then the second one for me on the defensive side of the ball has to be Chandler Jones. He was, non-existent there in Vegas when he was supposed to give Max Crosby, another guy
Some
on the
help.
other some help. Yeah, and he gave them nothing besides the only play that I talked about earlier, where he, won them the game against New England. He
Yeah.
did nothing for that whole season.
Yeah,
So
he was pretty
Chandler
underwhelming
Jones.
for sure. CJ.
Matt Jones had a like. I guess like, it's not all his fault, but nonetheless, Mac Jones,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, Alvin Kamara, Chandler Jones. It was
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan, Matt Ryan, the entire
Carson
Ryan.
Wentz.
Carson, yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure what people expected out of Carson Wentz at this point, but whatever they expected, they sure got less than what they expected.
I don't know. Like I feel like he's just like that. Like the stigma is out against him. Like there's just this narrative that Carson Wentz is just whatever it is. It's just whatever the narrative is out on him. Like that's what it is. I don't think he can change it. I still think the Colts scapegoat to him. I still
Oh,
think the
100%.
Eagles scapegoat to him. They were expecting him to win up in Philly, throwing to Greg Ward Jr.
I do not think he hasn't really been the same player since the ACL tear. I think it just buried his future. His
I take
future.
no, I take it an injury first. I think he hasn't been the same player since he took that shot to the back of the head.
Yeah. So
Remember
I
that?
mean,
Like,
but for sure he hasn't been the same player since the ACL tear. Let's talk about so we're getting away from individual players and individual moments. Let's talk about entire teams. Most surprising team for you guys. I will go first. I'll take the New York Football Giants. I never expected them to not only win a playoff game but make the playoffs this past season. The fact that Daniel Jones. Played one serviceable season. Now he's going to be making $40 million a year. That's another conversation for another time. But, Saquon Barkley came back and proved why he's a top 5 running back in the NFL. And this defense, big time. And the change of head coach from one season to the next, Brian Daboll had these guys playing hard for him. If Chris was on this show, he'd be talking about this. The Giants were probably the biggest surprise of this entire football season.
yeah. Throw Detroit in there too. Throw Seattle in there.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Seattle. Again, I never forget. Like everybody's thinking, like Drew Lock's gonna be the starter because Geno hasn't shown anything worth being a starter. He's been a backup ever since he got casted out of New York, right? And Pete Carroll's talking like they're asking Pete Carroll about questions about Drew Lock, and Pete Carroll with a straight face, it's like, well, we still got Geno. Geno's still here, and I'm not gonna just because we traded for Drew Lock, that doesn't mean Drew Lock's automatically gonna be the guy. That's what training camp's for. We're gonna have these two guys go at it. They're both gonna get. We're both gonna give them reps with the ones, and whoever's the best man is the best man. And Geno Smith was the best in.
And you got to remember when we did the season preview prediction for the Seattle Seahawks, I had them winning like one game. Like one game.
We all had them. I don't think I had them winning only one game. I think it was like 3 or 4. But
Yeah, I think I had
we all
like
had them
3 or
missing the
4.
playoffs.
One game.
Nobody
Yeah.
gave them a chance, man. Though, the way they drafted last year to Geno's confidence, stepping into a more of a leadership role.
No.
Kenneth Walker, kind of evolving into the running back he has. I think Pete Carroll did a really wonderful job this year at bringing all of the troops in.
They drafted two tackles that were basically one of the best tackles at their position this past season. The Charles Cross, and I can't remember who the other guy playing the right tackle is, but like they did a great job drafting, and it's been rare for Seattle to be a team that drafts well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. If I had to go with two teams on each end, I think Seattle has to be on the NFC side. Seattle and definitely I have to give it to Detroit too. I mean, everybody thought like, hey, Detroit is, Detroit's still not good. I mean, this team doesn't know how to win. Jared Goff, was kind of okay last year, but he really elevated his game. This year, you saw they found out how to win games, close games. They were right there, and Seattle knocked them out. So I look for big things from Detroit next year. And then on the AFC side, I got to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars making the playoffs. The team that Tennessee, they kind of took advantage of Tennessee having some woes this year, defensively and offensively. Definitely at the quarterback position. And also, shout out to Jacksonville being one of my surprising teams this year. So.
Moving on from most surprising teams, let's talk about the other end of the spectrum, the most disappointing teams in the NFL. I will go first, and I will take the there's so many teams actually to pick from. I will go New Orleans Saints, actually. I had the New Orleans Saints winning the NFC South. And they basically never were even like they were the NFC South because nobody wanted to win the NFC South. It was wide open for the Saints to take that step. Their offense never clicked. Their offense never really got it going. Their defense was always really good even this season, but New Orleans Saints are pretty disappointing for me. I thought they'd be better than this with Jameis Winston there at quarterback, and they never really gave him a second shot after he got hurt. I don't really understand that situation because Andy Dalton was sure not getting it done, and he weren't winning games. Like, why not go back to Jameis Winston? I don't get it. They're super disappointing.
If I had to go with a most disappointing team, I mean, sometimes you'll go with a team that didn't make the playoffs that, could have made the playoffs, like, maybe Arizona or something like that. Las Vegas, they didn't really click, getting Devontae Adams and stuff like that. But I have to go, my most disappointing team on both sides is the Buffalo Bills. I mean, this team I thought was going to be a Super Bowl contender. They're a Super Bowl contending team, but they just didn't contend for the Super Bowl this year. I thought they'd make the Super Bowl. I thought they'd win the Super Bowl. I thought they'd have the best. And
we just lost him.
Man, talking smack about the Buffalo Bills, get your mic cut.
I get what he's saying.
I don't even disagree. We talked about this when we did the Buffalo Bills season preview.
And Alvin, like we don't let anybody on because we've gotten burned from that too many times in the past. And yeah.
And we're also trying to run the show kind of quick here, so we're trying to burn through it. If you message me on Facebook directly, we can get you on a show later at the very start.
Right.
Appreciate you checking us out.
But most disappointing team, like you said, David, pick one. Pick one.
Go through the AFC West. I mean, if you want to talk about the Raiders, you want to talk about the Denver
Broncos.
If you swing into the NFC West, you want to talk about the Los Angeles Rams, the Arizona
Raiders,
Cardinals.
the Raiders, the Broncos, the Rams, the Cardinals, the entire NFC South. Oh, seriously, the entire NFC South.
The Indianapolis Colts. I mean,
the Green Bay. You go with the Green Bay Packers.
I thought Green Bay was gonna suck. So
y'all got jokes.
Continue.
He got
Carry
jokes.
on.
He got jokes. I ain't say nothing, but I'm in agreement with you. The Green Bay Packers for sure were disappointed because it's again. You got this Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's the one that's making the stuff hard. Like he's the headache. He's the constant. Like it's like, bro, can you just shut up and play ball? Like, don't go on Pat McAfee's podcast. Like, don't do none of that, bro. Just show up, play ball, win games, go home. Hey, I'm giving you 60 M's to come on, bro. But Green Bay, the organization, did it to themselves. On a personal note, Chicago, bro, like I did not expect them to. I expected them to be bad. I didn't expect them to be like first overall pick bad. If that makes sense.
Yeah, me either. I didn't think they'd ever be like that bad.
Like
But
I
yeah,
like did I expect us to be picking like top 10
five,
ish,
five.
five five
I thought we picked a top five.
5 to 10 ish? Yeah. Did I expect us to get number one? No, absolutely not. But like that's just no, seriously. I'm like, are we gonna be bad? But I don't think we was gonna be, oh, what 3-14? I didn't think we were gonna be that bad. And
So
Fred Van Fleet just got fined $30,000. If you don't know why, look it up.
I know why.
It's pretty hilarious. It
He's
is
funny.
hilarious.
moving on from the most disappointing teams, let's look to the future just a tad here. Team with the brightest future.
We touched on it. It's Detroit. No, we touched on this Detroit. Like they got their front seven of the future. They got their offensive line for the future. I mean, as of right now, I don't know how. I don't even know who the oldest person on that offensive line is. Probably
Frank Ragnow, probably.
I mean, it's probably Taylor Decker's been there forever too.
Yeah, he's been there for a minute.
Like you got
Those two guards are getting older. I don't remember their names right now, but
you got Penei Sewell for the next decade. You got Frank Ragnow for at least the next five to a decade.
He's under contract for the next 3 seasons for sure. Taylor Decker, I don't know what his contract situation is.
Now you got the I don't know how much longer you're gonna have Ben Johnson.
You got two young wide receivers.
You got two young.
Ben Johnson's going to be a head coach next season, I think.
I hate the fact that they got rid of T.J. Hawkinson though. That kind of sucks.
But if you're not going to commit money to him, I understand it.
That's true.
But I don't necessarily disagree with the Detroit Lions, but I'll go Philadelphia Eagles. They got a plethora of draft capital, and they have. I know the cap situation is not ideal, but they should have a good ability as long as Jalen Hurts continues to grow and progress with those weapons, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and AJ Brown. That should be a team that continues to get better and better every season.
I think the issue that they're gonna have is they're like that roster's gonna get expensive kind of fast.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have to. And this is like we ran into the same thing, like the same talking point with Kansas City. It's like, what are you gonna do when you're gonna have to pay like your heavy hitters? And we already saw them, get rid of one. Like Tyreek Hill's not there anymore. Tyreek Hill got his money from Miami, but if I'm the Eagles, I understand. Like I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, but that bridge is being built kind of fast, and you're lucky right now because you're not.
So we're talking about 1 season before Jalen Hurts is going to need to have some sort of extension.
Maybe two.
Two.
Maybe 2 if you tag them, right? Because it's.
Well, I wouldn't play around. I would for sure see if we can extend him right away. I also like the Cincinnati Bengals' future, Jacksonville Jaguars, Chargers.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was just about to mention the Jacksonville Jaguars. Teams that made the playoffs. You got the Jags, the San Francisco 49ers, whether they go with Trey Lance or Brock Purdy. I love the San Francisco 49ers. They have a Super Bowl contending defense.
I'm finna nip that in the bud right now. You are not starting Brock Purdy over Trey Lance. With all the draft capital that you gave up to get Trey Lance, no. Like you're gonna try that thing till you know for a fact that it doesn't work. Right? It's like Trey Lance has gotten 2 outliers. He's gotten hurt and like he got hurt this year. That's the outlier.
They could potentially use Brock Purdy as a trade chip. I actually want to touch on a team that I think is going to have a bright future if they hit on draft picks and free agency, and that is your Chicago Bears. Your Chicago Bears have a really bright future because I love what I saw out of Justin Fields. You got a Khalil Herbert. I don't know if you guys bring back David Montgomery. You have a solid number 2. You traded for Chase Claypool. You have a solid tight end. All you gotta do is hit on. You got a couple decent pieces on the defensive side as well. Not collectively, offensively, offensive line. You got to get better. But I mean, you have the most cap room. You have the most money to spend.
If you hit on free agency, you hit on your draft picks. I think you guys can do a 180 turn.
So I will talk
Next
about
year.
this when the next time we do a mock draft. So the Bears, what I think they're going to end up doing is they're going to trade back with Houston and get a first and a second this season, and then they're going to trade back again with Indianapolis and get a second, their first, a second, and then a second next year. And they're going to come out of this with a first round pick and then three second round picks that they're going to have in the next couple seasons. Like if they work at the way they should, like trade back twice and acquire an insane amount of draft capital.
Well, I think I think that it all comes down to who has, like, who wants that number one overall pick. Like obviously, like Houston's in play because they have 2 firsts this year. Like they so like I don't
But
know.
I don't think it would require Houston to give up both. Like, I think they'd be able to give up 2, and I think if they give up a second round pick next year, I think they'll be okay. But yeah, I think the Chicago Bears for sure have a really bright future. How about on the other side of this coin, bleakest future?
Because of his health situation, it's definitely Miami. It's Miami. It's Baltimore because of their quarterback situation.
I agree with you 100% on Baltimore, especially if Lamar Jackson leaves. I think that would be they would have the worst. Their roster's not built for anyone else.
Now you can also throw Baltimore into like most disappointing team because they were winning. They were leading their division. They had a 2-game lead.
Yeah, and they let it fall apart.
And it was an ugly fall apart. It wasn't even like a slow decline. It was like boom, straight down. Like it's just giant drop all the way to the top. Boom, down in 2 seconds.
And then on the others, also with bleak futures, you got to throw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sure, you won a Super Bowl, but what's the plan now? You're over the cap space. You're probably going to have to trade some of your players away. You don't really have draft capital to get a quarterback. I'm not sure what the future plans are there in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you guys. If Lamar's gone out of Baltimore, if he signs with another team, or they get 2 first round picks for him, whatever the case is, that like TJ said, that team is not built to like that team's built solely around Lamar Jackson. You can put as many quarterbacks, the Tyler Huntley's of the world, the Josh Johnsons of the world around him, the McSorley, Trace McSorley's in the world. Put him as the backup, and that system does not work quite as effective as it does with Lamar Jackson. He leaves. Baltimore is it's tough. It's really tough, but defensively, I mean, they still have some pieces there. If I had to go with a team with the bleakest future, though, man, it's got to be the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, I know that they're going to get another franchise. They better go draft a quarterback in the first round, because if they do another makeshift quarterback situation here for the 4th time in a row, it's going to be ugly. But I have to go with the Indianapolis Colts. They have a bleak future here. Hopefully they hit on they don't reach for like an Anthony Richardson. They go get their guy who should be like Will Levis or somebody else, CJ Stroud, whatever the case is.
Anthony Richardson will be a Colt. Calling it now.
You calling it? He's gonna go over Will Levis?
Yeah. I
Yes,
think Anthony Richardson will be the second quarterback taken.
There's a sucker born every minute, every second. Rather.
I would love to chase. You know what? The next mock draft, I'll let it break down why teams. I know his draft combine is crazy, but you got to look at the games. Some of the games that he played last year, like against Tennessee, he had a hell of a game. His last 6 games, he had like 15 touchdowns to like 3 interceptions. His last 6 games, he was really good. Or no, it was like 12 touchdowns, like 3 interceptions.
Teams have fallen in love with the combine numbers and the stats. And
absolutely.
He will be the second quarter. He will be taking over CJ Stroud, who had a better.
He should not be taking over CJ Stroud. Bryce Young should not be taking over CJ Stroud. That's how I feel.
The last team I got for bleakest future has got to be the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford's getting old there. That defense is getting old. Their offensive line is getting old, and they've traded away all their draft capital too to try to.
What about Arizona, guys? What about Arizona? Like Kyler Murray,
they got Kyler Murray. I mean, they
What about it though? I mean, how is he going to be after that ACL injury? You know what I mean? Like you have to change, young man. You got to change it. You got to look at tape. You got to. I mean, he might be out the league in 2 years. TJ, he might not. I mean, he may not be after his contract. They may trade that contract towards the end of the contract. He may be out the league after that contract.
It's not a good look.
Yeah.
Like when they got to put a clause in your contract to watch film, that's not a good look. And then the only reason they took it out was because the public outcry. Hell no. I'd have left it in there. I'm finna give you all this money, and I gotta put it in your clause. In order for you to get paid, you gotta watch an X amount of hours of film. That's a bad look on Kyler Murray, not the organization. But staying with the bleakest future, Washington out like just because of the non-football side of the football side is bad anyway because you don't even know who the hell your quarterback is either.
Sam Howell, it's Sam Howell they trust.
But on the flip side of things, you have an owner who is, instead of being accountable and I messed up, I'm a bad person. You'll get this reference. He going for Nino Brown. he going full Nino Brown. If I'm going down, we all going down.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He ready to blow the whole thing up.
He's for real probably the worst owner in sports. It's for real. Like I don't think there's much debate when it comes to that stuff.
He is bad, yeah.
But that's been our 2022-23 NFL season recap. The next episode you'll see from Prime Sports World will be on Sunday, where we do the crossover episode. Give you the latest goings on in the National Basketball Association. I made a book to too, though. Izzy, are you running a college football show?
College basketball tomorrow, yes, definitely. Championship weekend. Got a nice little show going. We'll talk about some bracketology. Look at some of the pundits, brackets. Talk about the championship games.
Izzy. Does North Carolina make the tournament? Yes or no?
Ooh, borderline. Yes, they do make the tournament though.
I say no.
I think they have a couple good wins. I know they just lost. They just lost to Virginia. They got that. If they would have won that game, they for sure would have been in the tournament. But we'll see, man. We'll see.
But we will see you guys back here Friday, Sunday. Keep an eye out for that content. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you do happen to miss us live, we do have the streaming platforms. I've shared the link to all of that stuff. I'm David Huppman. Right there is Israel Rivera. My co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. And gentlemen, what do we do here at the Prime, my friends?
Bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. Bring in the heat.
Let's go.
I'm really gonna need the heat to come because this winter.
I ain't messing with this weather, son.
Like winter,
I ain't messing with it either.
Can you just let us go? Like it's over.
No, dude. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in.
Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.
And on that note, stay safe out in their weather. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, guys.